Gonna hit record. All right, hello and welcome to Nourishing the Planet. This is a new series brought to you by Duville University. My name is Casey Stewart. I'm the program director for health, wellness, and climate here at Duville. And this really offers a collaboration between my program for health, wellness, and climate and our program in nutrition and dietetics. Really, we're interested in creating resources and educational opportunities to fill the gap for nutritionists and dietitians to really be thinking about how nutritionists can have a real impact on lowering the carbon footprint of the things we eat, and contributing to a better, healthier, more sustainable food system. And so that's a real missed opportunity, and we're here to address that. So today we have Rachel Laster, who's going to be presenting Bringing It Home: Community Interventions Promoting Plant-Based Diets. Rachel, welcome, and take it away.
Hello. Thank you, Casey. Um, Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Um, yes, I guess we'll discuss today some community interventions promoting plant-based diets. I work primarily well, I guess I should introduce myself. My name is Rachel Laster. I am a registered dietitian that works at DUville University as a program director of our nutrition empowerment program. And I've been running various nutrition grants that are community facing that the school does host within Buffalo for the last 4 years. And so we've done different varying grants, usually private, and now we're on a federal grant that is very associated to SNAP spending. And through all that work, I've learned a lot in terms of people's opinions and reasons and just things around diet in general, food access, plant-based diets, all that. So we're going to discuss that here today. We'll be going through, well, firstly, the food inequity situation that does occur within our city, what plant-based diets looks like, and because if you're considering nutrition education and how people will, what that looks like in terms of working with community members, it's very different than when you're working in a clinical setting. And so you have to figure out where people are at in terms of what they understand plant-based to be before you can really go about promoting such a diet. And then also some organizations that are centered around plant-based, well, not necessarily plant-based diets, but increasing the access to fruit and vegetables within Buffalo, and also education around eating healthier, just lessening the food inequity, all these things. So I'm going to discuss a couple of those programs. It will not be comprehensive of all the wonderful work that's being done. There's tons of agencies doing a lot of good work, but I'm just going to point out a few ones that I'm aware of. And I'm aware of more than this as well, but I do want to highlight some. So let's go to our first slide. I'm sorry. Oh, wait, it's not moving. Hold on. Okay, my slides are moving, but your slides are not. So once again, gotta make sure I'm in the right thing. There we go. You guys, your slide changed, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so these are some food inequity stats that we currently have in Buffalo. And I got this data from our friends over at UB who have their food system and health and planning. They have a food lab, for lack of better phrasing, dedicated to the study of basically food inequity and food in Buffalo, food access and all that. And so there's some stats they did from their most recent community needs assessment. And so we see that here in Buffalo, they had that a large proportion of the population lives below the poverty level. That's 27, so that's 1/4 of the population, a little bit more than 1/4 of the population lives below poverty level. A lot of our residents are on SNAP. We have a great amount of people that are unable to buy food, unable to buy enough food. Some have to visit food pantries. And I used to run a food pantry here in Buffalo and saw what that looked like during COVID. And it was a large range of different lifestyles. And you would assume that only people who, the people have a look that they think people that need food look like, and it's not what people necessarily think. And there are a lot of families that also need food. So there is a great deal of food inequity in terms of what people are able to access, just in terms of basic food. So when we're talking about um, getting around to getting food that is
Mhm.
vegetables or healthy and fresh and new, that often can be a higher price point. And if people are already struggling to meet, regular food access in terms of monetary, um, issues and other issues, because there's housing, there's a top thing. We're gonna discuss that in a moment. So let me just go to the next slide, I guess. There we go. So these are some of the drivers of food inequity in Buffalo, as we already spoke to: poverty and unemployment. And it says right clearly there, people who live in poverty cannot afford to buy food regularly and often live in places where access to food and healthy food is lacking. So here in Buffalo, we do have what we can, call food deserts, and we'll be talking about a different term for that in a moment. But because of the high levels of poverty, and as we saw earlier, the large amount of people that are on food assistance,
Yeah.
there is it's harder to make those quote unquote healthier choices that people would necessarily think, because of the lack sometimes of convenience around that. Um, if you are some individuals, they assume that people are just laying at home not working. If someone is on food assistance, does not mean they're like, if they're on welfare or these things, they're not necessarily just at home not working. Some people have two jobs, they just don't have jobs that pay well, and so they have to work harder to, and not really, still can't really make ends meet.
Mhm.
And also then often if they're in that situation, or sometimes they just don't have the time, honestly, like you're working, you don't make a lot of money, and you do maybe have a family that you need to feed, that can really tie into where people don't, they will lean more heavily on convenience foods and things that may be, more processed, more, um, uh, like not, like say not cooked food, because not cooked food by themselves because they don't have the time or maybe the education around doing so. And like I said, the convenience can really sort of take priority over the uh, quality of what they may feed themselves. Lack of affordable housing as well. That just ties in and sort of increases the poverty situation. Individuals pay, like, even in Buffalo, like as someone who was born here and has grown up here, rents are has drastically increased in what it used compared to what it used to be for the same properties that have not improved in quality. Like, so we'll have housing here that is not excellent housing, but the price for that same housing has gone up, and that doesn't really benefit anyone, in terms of, if you're spending more money to, just to live in a space, you have less money for, food. And also, if these spaces are in neighborhoods that have been disinvested in, you won't necessarily have the same access to the healthier foods that people do truly want, but may not seek, not be able to get as readily. So, chronic health conditions, which is so it's a horrible cyclic thing where if you can't have access to these things, it often leads, to an unhealthy eating pattern over the course of your life, which can also, as we all know, can sort of tie into the progression of chronic health diseases, or like the incidence and progression of chronic health disease. So often, people who may not have had a financial issue prior will find themselves then like in a health space, like they end up with, they find out they have some drastic health condition, and now a lot of their money is now having to be spent toward treating their health. And so then they're financially strapped in that way, and they can no longer do the same things that they were able to do. And also sometimes those health conditions can lead them to not being able to take care of themselves in the same way previously. So if you were someone who was more active previously, but now you've unfortunately gotten diabetes and had an amputation and you can't stand in your kitchen anymore,
Right.
um, it's not like, it's just, there's a series of things that go into not be able to take care of yourself in the same way that you previously were. And so health conditions in of themselves can be a driver toward why we have a food related and health, like, intake issue. And oh, of course, we racism and discrimination. So this is always an issue within areas, because we look at it and we see, like, we say poverty, but it's really, these are systemic issues that drive um, where people are at. And so we've gotten rid, at least in the world of food justice, we've gotten rid of the food word, food desert, because it's not really properly describing what occurs. And it's been sort of changed to this word of food apartheid because it more addresses the systemic issues that are associated to why there's no market right there. Like there's no access, like why there's the closest market is always in the suburbs. Like why you have to drive if you don't have transport, you may not be able to get there. Like why someone can drive for hours and know to go shoot up people at a grocery store because they know that's the only grocery store that the Black people go to because it's a more, Black people associated area. Things like that. So it sheds like it says it sheds lights on systemic discrimination as opposed to just assuming that or making it seem like there's no association to why those issues would be something that would cause something that would cause a disinvestment. Like there's been like purposeful disinvestment in these areas, and so therefore that has affected the people and their quality of life, including the quality of their food. Okay, but now we speak to the benefits of a plant-based diet. Um, so if you work in the world of dietetics and then also the world of community dietetics when you're working with clients community or outpatient or inpatient like inpatient a little bit less because when you're in an acute situation we treat patients slightly differently. It's not time to teach. It's not That's not what we're going to do in that space. But when you're working with people outside of the acute setting and you're working with people that, you're doing cooking classes in a neighborhood center or you're working with a client one-on-one, you have to understand that you're working with them from where they're coming from. So firstly, you have to figure out what plant-based means to them because it can go all over the place. So I listed all these different terms of what plant-based can be. So as we know, we have vegans that are people who exclude everything in terms of actual animal product. So that would include meat, fish, dairy. We have vegetarians that usually include dairy and eggs. Flexitarians, which sounds kind of, I always found kind of silly, but sure. So it's for someone that I guess is vegetarian most of the time, but sometimes eats meat. And then plant-based is really, I think, a nice term to just say that you have a plant forward diet. Like you eat majority of plants, but sometimes you eat meat. It's very similar to the flexitarian one. Like I said, you sort of have to talk to each person and find out what their interpretation of this is. Because I've had even individuals who tell me that they're pescatarian and therefore they don't eat meat. And I'm like, no, fish is meat. It's just it's meat in the water, but very much meat. So you have to see where your clientele and also, or in this case, your constituents, the community is, or whoever you're working with like what their thoughts on that is, because that can affect how they're going to feel about adopting something more plant-based. But to that point, people assume that the everyday person does not necessarily want a plant-based diet, and that's not really what at least my work has bared out. A lot of people are very much interested in adopting a plant-based diet or just eating more vegetables, learning more about how to prepare these things, but simultaneously, because I guess it's just the nature of how people grow up, or I'm not really sure, there's a barrier that's sort of like, oh no, I don't like that though. I don't want that hummus. Like there's a barrier that exists within what people are like, oh, I definitely want to eat more healthy, but then when you say the healthy thing, they're like they've heard that they don't like that. And so they believe that they don't like that without trying it necessarily. So there's some education that needs to happen on that front. But I do find that a lot of people, there's a lot more interest in eating plant-based, especially with the new, like with a lot more information, like the social media sharing of information. We have a lot more just that can be given out to the public in a quicker way. So there's a lot more interest, I think, than people may think that there is in adopting a plant-based diet. And so these are just some benefits of eating a plant-based diet. It lowers heart disease, chronic disease, diabetes. It's good for gut health. And so often you have to sometimes explain to some people because once again, some people are very averse to things they're not familiar with. And while they definitely can understand that eating more fruits and vegetables and eating more plant-based and eating less processed meat and just meat in general will probably be good for their health. People are very habit driven. And, we've been marketed for years that you need meat 3 times a day and a cup of milk and all these things. And often people will not necessarily know that, you can get a lot of good, like a lot of good protein one, because a lot of people are very, protein based these days. Like they're like, ooh, need all the protein, lots of protein. That you can get a lot of that from, vegetable sources as well as, meat as well, but that it can be gotten from vegetable sources and that necessarily, that vegetables aren't nasty. And so therefore we can definitely make them taste good. Uh, Eating plant-based though also I think is important because it improves your overall nutritional intake. I think as a dietitian when I'm working with someone and they no, if I'm working with someone right away, I do not try to push them necessarily to a vegan diet. If they're interested in that, I would definitely discuss it to them. I would definitely discuss it with them. What I try to do is try to make sure that individuals understand the value of vegetables in their diet and fruits and all those things, and just eating plants and fiber in their diet, and understanding that you want to try to get as much of that in as you can because it is going to lead to an overall diet that is better for you. You'll get a lot more nutrients and all the other things you need to have a good functioning body, as opposed to what has been given to us over the years. Because a lot of why we eat the quantity of animal product that we eat is, it was marketed. It's a very much a thing like where, if you go like 1950s and 19 like up to it was a sign of having affluence. It was, there's a lot of reasons people eat meat that aren't associated to, needing to eat meat. Like it's just how it was marketed to us, and also like what it meant in terms of like if you're a successful family, like you eat steak on Sundays, you do all these things. Um, and you eat, bacon for breakfast, and all these, like you eat something for lunch, you eat meat, you eat meat every meal. That was part of firstly a subsidized government thing, as well as just what people attached to, like what emotion was attached to being able to do that for your family. So working on understanding why that's a thing and then helping people sort of move away from that thought process. And veganism, to that point, though, it's point six, veganism is growing in the United States, which also is good because it gives more information about how to do it well. Because once again, like nobody just wants to eat a piece of celery, but you can cook all this food to make amazing dishes. And because people are scared, there's a a barrier there where people think that just because it's a vegan dish or a highly plant-based dish, that it will not taste good or won't be as quality as something with a ton of animal products in it. And that's not necessarily the case. And it will have more nutrients in most cases. And so that's why I try to push people toward such diets. And we'll cover that as well. Because this one is more listed on like no, nutrition reasons that a plant-based diet would be of value. So they're better for your heart. They're much easier to lose weight if you're eating the significantly less calories that the average plant-based diet will be less caloric than a meat-based diet, just simply because of the way vegetables and fruits are built as opposed to our meat sources. It's like you'll get essentially more nutrients because of the nature, once again, of fruits and vegetables compared to our meat sources. You, and not to say that meat will not provide you, it provides you with other vitamins that you can also get through other means. It nurtures a very healthy gut. Once again, to the point of fiber, we don't get enough. The average American gets about 11 grams a day. The average woman needs about 25. The average man needs about 35. So we're not getting the amount of fiber that we need. And we're seeing a lot that the increase in fiber and the need for fiber, it prevents all these things. Like it helps your gut health, which is, good for brain health, which is good for like preventing colon cancer. All these things is super important in our diets. And we understand more now about how much of our gut health is affecting other things within our body. So increasing our fiber is really important. Like because to the next point, increases our immune function, things of that nature, and it also creates a more sustainable future. So to that point, in terms of environment, we had sorry, next slide. It it just speaks much more heavily to the need for, in terms of sustainability for our planet. We have to try to be better stewards of the land that we're on, And vegan diets are, as you see the stats here, it's 75% land use, 55.4% less water use, 63% less water pollution, and less biodiversity loss. So it's very important that we consider, what a plant-based diet can do in terms of helping us be like I said, better stewards of the planet that we're on and live here better. And if you come back week 3, our friend here, Mark Rifkin, will be talking more about that. He can definitely has more information on that than I do. So he'll definitely be covering more of that on week 3. And now I'm going to discuss some community programming that I'm aware of. But once again, this is not a comprehensive list of all the different things that of all the different, like say, all the different organizations that do work around this area. I'm going to be speaking directly to the program that I run. And there are tons of people doing lots of really good work in this arena, though. So I don't want anyone to think that this is the limited amount of work that's being done. This is just some of the organizations I am pointing out. These are some of the reasons. So there's evidence-based methods to increase fruit and vegetable intake. And so when I say evidence-based, I'm just talking about things that we actually have research on. Um, so so firstly, programs that increase consumer access to fruit and vegetables. By that, I mean simply getting people to get more within their household. So one means of that is something that is like just, incentivizing people to buy more fruits and vegetables. Uh, so we'll be talking about those later, but I just simply mean like firstly access. So does your neighborhood have a grocery store in it? Like, is are there anywhere, like, does it have a farmer's market in it? Is there anywhere you can truly go within like a mile or two of your house that has fresh fruits and vegetables available to you? And there are large there are large areas in Buffalo that do not have that. Um, Produce prescription programs, those are when community centers or even maybe a doctor's office, if they have such of a grant, they are allowed to pretty much give financial incentivization to people. So they'll give them a prescription for fruits and vegetables, and these people can use those funds to go buy fruits and vegetables at either a market or whoever the partner store that is a part of the produce prescription program. Produce incentive programs, which is similar to the program I run, it allows individuals to get usually more money toward the purchase of fruit and vegetables at wherever that program is being held. And I'll discuss that more later. And also, we also have evidence that shows that simply getting more vegetables into people's hands does not actually necessarily increase intake. People also do need education, quote unquote, around how to prepare the food so that they can actually enjoy it. And some people just don't have a lot of cooking confidence. There's a series of reasons somebody may not know how to prepare a varying types of fruit and vegetables. But we have evidence that if you have like a class associated with your efforts toward the increase of food, that people are much more likely to help make that behavior change that we as dietitians will be looking for. So the first one I'll discuss is the Healthy Community Store Initiative. They have 16 partner stores within Buffalo, New York, and they take the approach of improving access to fresh, affordable produce and healthier. So it was in neighborhood corner stores. So if you're familiar with like a store that's like on a corner, they usually don't have a lot of healthy food in them. There's like usually chips, pop, beer, things of that nature, like maybe some canned goods, maybe some other stuff, but it's not a lot of quality food in there. In these 16 stores, they've either not all of them, but in some of their stores, they have provided the store with like a small refrigerator and also connections to farmers so they can stock these refrigerators with healthier options that like to that point, like fresh fruit and vegetables, so that individuals who may not have the transportation to go to a Wegmans or a Tops or a local a larger footprint grocery store can have access to those items closer to their household. They also are in stores that may already have a department, like so maybe a Imperial Market on a Bailey Avenue or a uh, They're also in a series of supermarkets in Buffalo. Well, not supermarkets, smaller chain supermarkets that are just probably one store and owned by a smaller group. Uh, so not like a Tops or a Wegmans, but I'll be speaking to some of the stores later because they're part of my program as well. They already have produce markets, but they go to those stores and share health information and help people understand like why maybe you should check your blood pressure. They promote health on a series of fronts and encourage the stores as well to stock healthier items so that the residents can, make healthier, have the option to make healthier choices. So the Match to More program. So that's the program I'm currently running at four stores that are all healthy community initiative stores. Um, it's very similar to Double Up Food Bucks, which if you are not familiar with Double Up Food Bucks, it is a program that allows individuals to match their produce and vegetable spending with their SNAP monies, so their food assistance monies. Um, to the purchase of more fruits and vegetables. So if they say there has been $10 on fruits and vegetables, they could essentially get $20 worth for the same $10. My program is slightly different in that for up like if somebody it matches any produce purchasing to the purchase of any SNAP eligible food in the store. So if someone were to spend $10 on produce, they could then get $10 discounted from the purchase of the other food that they may purchase that time, whether it be, meat, but like, pasta, cheese, anything that they may. It's so and it helps. I think it's beneficial just the same as people can make like more complete in their mind meals than with simply just getting all fruits and vegetables. They can buy things that may be supplemental to that and, prepare like something that's more comprehensive. As part of our program as well, though, we do have 4-week vegetarian cooking classes that are held at local community centers that are near our partner stores and other areas within the community to help people understand how to create plant-based food and plant-based meals. That way they can, have more learning on that front. And the feedback from those classes is always that they're like, oh, this is surprisingly good, as opposed to like they're for once again surprised that it tastes good, but it helps them, understand and learn new ways to use those foods. Home Beneath Our Feet is a program that is does a series of things. So they do youth development, work development, and they also have and as their work development planning, they have a farmers market. But I learned more about this program, and it's definitely I think a like super excellent and exciting program because it works mostly with children and teaches them about gardening and farming, but also like the social emotional things that go with understand like growing something and having them understand like have patience, understand more about the environment, how to be good stewards of the environment, and like why taking care of the land you're on is important, and that you can grow things from your own, that you can have it that you can grow things from your own land, but that you can take, it's a like personal development thing for the children, as well as, it gets them outside and outdoors and does fitness activities with them. They also go through like they have agricultural training, but they through the work development aspect, they also do train the children to work on a farm if they were to choose to do so, to have agriculture related jobs. And they teach them also about they through their farmers market, they teach them about financial literacy and business development. And it was just a really interesting program. And I think helps people understand that they can like sort of come back to the land in a sense because there is some, people don't necessarily think that farming is not glamorous, but a, a job that a lot of children at least think of, and that it can be like a thing that people can be involved in on a personal level or on a, you know, business level. The Buffalo Food Equity Network is a smaller, not small, it's a collective of different food organizations. I'm pointing out some of them within the Buffalo Food Equity Network in this slide. Food for the Spirit is a group that is a collective of women, Black women, led network, but not exclusive, but Black women led network that represents underserved communities. And some of them are farmers, some of them are business owners that run urban gardens, some of them are individuals who, just are proponents of personal gardening, a lot of commercial gardens, community gardens. And they come together to, work and discuss ways to improve the food landscape and from a racial lens as well as just an overall community engagement lens. Freedom Gardens is an organization that started by the late Gail Wells, and she was a big proponent of personal gardening, and her legacy is very much the Freedom Garden Project. And they provide individuals with materials and training to help grow their own personal gardens, like in their yard, or they provide people raised beds and things of that nature to help people understand that they can grow their own food. Okay. Any questions?
Thanks so much, Rachel. That was a great talk. I love that. And you hit on so many points that I think are excellent and to get us this whole series going. The way education is key. And I think a lot of what you're talking about is like just having cultural competence, to address these systemic issues and meet the people you work with where they are. And so I wanted to ask sort of a question about Buffalo's culture. Yeah, and like how do we change culture, right? Buffalo is such a meat-centric place. It's
I
no
love a chicken wing.
buffalo wing. It's I had never heard of a meat raffle until we got here. And I was like, what?
My
People
first meat
eat here.
rapper was at the Uville though. I would say like what's a great good question. That is to the point of like where I don't think it's quite like as much as I know personally, like I'm not a vegetarian, but I know that eating vegetarian, vegan, is more healthy. I think the general populace knows that. It's just a matter of once again, we are very much a meat like this town is meat centric, but the world, let me put not the world, America is very meat centric. And so because of that, it's a lot of sort of not even behavior change, just you have to expose. You have to it's an exposure thing. You have to expose people to things that they may not be as familiar with. You can definitely because you don't want to get overbearing on people. Like that's not going to get them to want to do this. Like, like you want to make sure that you want to meet them where they're at. Like, so what do you like? Like, so if you like buffalo wings, let me try to show you this buffalo cauliflower. Like you might, like it's like or understand like I've done tofu buffalo wing dip. Like, you have to like sneak it in on people. You have to sneak things in on
Mhm.
individuals. Like
Yeah.
so and sort of just share with them and like but to that point you can like if you explain to people like it and like I said, I am a big promoter of vegetarian and vegan eating. However, I don't think that's what someone's going to do necessarily all the time. So I don't try to put on people that eat this all the time. I'm saying do it more often because that will be
Mhm.
better for you more often. Like,
Right.
it's very 80, like 20%. Like, you
Yeah.
want to have a quality diet the majority of the time. So have your chicken wing, around your football game if you must. But consider what that's doing for you and then consider what this other food would be doing for you, like in terms of quality. Like you sort of have to help people look at their diet in terms of value to themselves and not just simply value in terms of what they think in terms of like the value of like I said, once again, because we tie a lot of our meat consumption to at least previously, a lot of our meat consumption was tied to what can we afford. Like, look at how good my life is, and look at all the meat I can buy. Like, but now it's not like I think that people are looking at it very differently in terms of health because we have a greater understanding on what is truly healthy for us long term. Um, and so, like, helping people understand that, this may be vegan and there may not be any animals here, but I promise you it will taste good. And look how much better it is for you than this other item. So just helping people, reframe the like what's quality to them and reframe you know, but usually to do that reframing, you do have to make sure it does taste good.
Mhm.
I'm a big food I'm a big, I'm a very big all foods fit dietitian, but also food needs to taste good. Like I'm a, hobbyist chef. Like, so I want people to understand that, I want people eat for reasons that are not necessarily just food, quality, not just nutrients. We eat to celebrate. We eat to enjoy food. We like it's a, there's a cycle effect that comes with eating. And
Hmm.
because of that, you can't simply just say, if we only ate for nutrients, we probably wouldn't eat the tastiest diets. But
Right.
taste is important. Um, we eat once again to do a lot of we eat to celebrate. We eat, when we're sad, we eat for all types of reasons. And so what that food looks like is going to be important and to help people understand that eating like the value of your food is not based on its price necessarily. It's more like what does this do to benefit your body?
Yeah, that's great. I really like that answer. And then I also I'll say I make a really mean buffalo wings with eggplant. I just
Oh, that
kind of kind
sounds
of
interesting. Yeah.
kind of use like the eggplant parm sort of model, and then just kind of
Oh, okay. Yeah, that
use buffalo sauce
sounds
instead.
good.
It works. Heather, I saw you kind of nodding along. I was wondering if you had a question
Yeah.
or a comment.
Yeah. So thank you so much for this presentation because this is something I've been trying to get like my family like 1 day a week and now kind of 2 days a week eating more plant-based, dinners as a
Yeah.
family. And so I'm glad you spoke about kind of the psychological, aspect of food. So I found that if it kind of looks like what they're used to, even if the texture's a little different, they're
Hmm.
okay with it. And that I just have to kind of try different things and see what we all like. And I've found some amazing pea protein products that my kids are like, I like this better. Like it's easier to chew, it's easier to digest. Like we have a lot of digestive problems and food allergies and things in our family.
Hmm.
And so I think some of it is just like trying it. Cause like you said, you have this like thought in your mind that it's going to be just awful and it's not going to taste good and I'm not going to enjoy it. But actually,
Oh, did she freeze for y'all? She froze for me.
like I feel better after we eat. Like we don't feel that heaviness or
Heaviness.
like
I was
sitting
gonna
in our
say point out
stomach. And my kids who, yeah, like the GI impact is very real. Like your body
I
doesn't have to work so hard to break down all of those
like
meats, which are so hard to digest.
they're very much harder to digest. I used to, I don't haven't really done it last year, but I used to talk about something like one hot dog a year because I love
Yeah,
hot dogs the way they taste.
yeah,
However, I would eat one and I would feel terrible. I would feel like literally
yeah.
bad, like 15 minutes
Oh,
later. And I was like, oh,
yeah,
I can't eat. I was like, so I did find for Smart Life hot dogs, which are close enough in my mind, but
yeah.
close enough in my mind. But recently I've like moved away from deli meat and I've started
Yeah,
making like tofu deli meat.
yeah,
Um, because to that point, I don't feel the after effect of
correct.
how unfortunately the meat makes me feel like, like because it's highly processed, full of salt, full of
Yeah,
whatever nitrates are, and like like we don't want all like, and so
right.
like I said, it just like often you have to experience that though, because and to that point, as much as
Right.
I would try to work people where they're at. Some people are just very stubborn. Like I had a
Yeah,
father who would, if I suggested
that's
he
my
eat
dad.
anything, if I suggested he eat anything, he'd be like, nope, it's gonna taste crazy because you're trying to make me healthy. And I'm just like, sir,
I
he had
know.
diabetes, he had cancer, he had kidney
Yeah,
failure, he had all the fun things, and he would
yeah,
not listen to my health recommendations in terms of his
I
eating
know.
better. So so you have to work through some, you have to, just
Yeah,
sneak it in, force it on him.
yeah.
I could give him salads. He would do salad.
Yeah.
Like so you gotta work from where at, but yes, to that point, I feel like when people experience it and then realize how they don't have the negative after effects
Right.
from it, they're definitely more inclined to try more
Hmm.
in that arena.
Yeah, so I'm just in that like learning stage. Like you said, it's like
And
education, like
and
learning
tofu's tricky.
recipes,
You gotta learn it. You can't.
sharing, just because I need more in my repertoire because I've been cooking one way my whole life and now it's like it's really hard. All my recipes have meat in them. So it's like finding the right
finding.
substitutes for that like fit the
And
taste.
mushrooms are a great thing as well if
Yeah.
you're like considering things like, but to that
Yes.
point, we also have to do the education
Yeah.
around that because I had a client that thought that mushrooms had a large quantity of protein because, vegan cooking was highly done with mushrooms. I'm like, no, it's just texture and taste.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to find some protein. You gotta add some
You
beans.
gotta find the
We're gonna figure out
protein
something
that is
like pea
too
protein,
other
like you can buy that
the
Beyond Meat if you want
thing.
to pay for it. I'm not really a big fan of those because they are pricey.
Yeah.
And still very processed. Like, so I'm like, the only benefit often is the saturated fat content of those, like that's lower, but nothing else is.
Right.
So like very high in salt still, sometimes sugary, like so it's
Yeah.
and then like I said, once again, I'm also used to working with members who may like I don't assume what people have, but I assume that everybody has no money. So
Right.
I was trying to I assume that everyone has no money and therefore let's figure out how to best price this out for everyone.
Right.
And if you happen to have more funds, you can buy something else. But we're gonna go from our our base point and then move up from there. So I always try to help people understand ways to cook that are less expensive.
Good. I'm looking forward to learning more.
That's great.
Thinking, Rachel, I might offer a suggestion. So what's one recipe that you're having a challenge
Oh,
replacing?
I love cooking. Like I don't have a challenge per se, but
I'm sorry, not
just
Rachel.
always suggest like what was it like were you what were you thinking in mind like in terms of like meat substitutes?
Well, actually, I misspoke. I meant to direct my question to Heather.
Oh, okay, no
Oh,
problem.
yeah, I'm just looking for any recipes. Like we eat a lot of, chicken, we eat a lot of beef, so like substitutes for those that would, make you still feel like you're getting the protein you need and the textures and the
Have
fullness.
you ever tried textured vegetable protein?
No.
Um, that is a I find so TVP. The only company I can think that sells it large scale would be it's like Crumbly. It's sort of like
Okay.
ground beef.
Yep. I
Bob's Red
yep.
Mill. You could probably find it at Wegmans. They also had it at Tops once. I saw it at Tops and at Wegmans. Pretty sure that a Whole Foods would have some version of it as well. But to that point, if you go to an Asian market, they will have different cuts that are because those brands are just going to be crumbly in a bag. Uh, Textured vegetable protein can come in like it's sometimes already used in some Asian cooking like restaurants and like food products so it sort of looks like chicken chunks
Okay.
or chicken strips. You can buy those at some Asian markets in Buffalo,
Okay.
maybe the one on Bailey or the one on Niagara Falls Boulevard. So those mimic meat very well, and to that point it's basically just like they're a little there is some processing of it. They do some weird hexane thing, but uh it's basically like dehydrated tofu, for lack of a better
Okay.
word. Yeah.
Thank you for
I
that.
find it to be good in terms of when I'm trying to do like something that has a chunk of chicken in it. The crumbly TVP I often use for ground beef substitution.
Hmm.
However, just as a warning, don't use more than serving size because you will get very gassy. Like, do not like try to just like, oh, I'm gonna put 2 scoops of this on there. Do not do that to yourself. I learned the hard way. I was like, oh my. But very, very nutritious. The macros are amazing. The carbohydrate, because also if you're considering like I myself am diabetic, so I do have to watch my carbohydrate intake. Um, and that can be tricky, especially if you're
Hmm.
trying to eat more vegetables. The carbohydrate to fiber ratio is
Thank
amazing.
you.
The protein content is also very high because it's mostly like all these things are soy based. So they're practically no fat. So they're very good substitutes in terms of like
And
that
that's
look
what
like
I have to
protein.
watch is the soy base because I'm on
Oh, no soy?
Synthroid because I don't have a thyroid. So I do have to watch the soy.
Okay.
So I
Well,
do
those
have
are
to
soy
go
based. So
more.
maybe not the best
I
thing
do
for you.
more like the pea proteins because I shouldn't be doing much of the soy.
Got you.
Heather,
Yeah.
one of my favorite things to do is I make chickpea tacos. And basically it works the same
That's
way that you would do it with
great.
ground beef or ground chicken.
I
And,
love
And
and
that.
To
And you
that
just
point, you
put it in
can
the pan with some oil. I
Yep.
chop up some pepper,
chickpeas.
some poblanos, and the
Okay.
taco seasoning, and it works the same way. It's a perfect filler.
I love
Lentils
that.
are good
Yes,
for
I
that too.
love beans like lentils and all
Lentils
the
are, yeah, I was
different
like,
types
lentils
of
are really
beans.
good substitute. To that, if you have the patience to make them, to turn a lion's mane mushroom into a steak, there's
Uh-huh.
mess like there's ways to do it. It's just it
Uh-huh.
takes quite a while. Like you got to do a lot
Yeah.
of marinating and some pressing and but
Yeah.
the texture is very similar when you're done. And I've been told it tastes very good. I'd never take the time out to do it. Um,
Hmm.
but yes, those are going to be really safer options in terms of if you have a soy.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for the chickpeas tip. That's a good one. I'm
Chickpeas.
always looking for ways to make tacos that are meatless, and we
Oh yeah,
love
if
beans.
if you need veggie taco ideas, I'll send you all my stuff. We do a lot of that in our house.
I have a
Good.
lentil and I make a lentil and tofu lasagna. I guess maybe the tofu
Oh,
part you could just take the tofu out and just use
yeah.
regular tofu if
Yeah.
you really wanted to. I like, but I instead of using like I use lentils in lieu of noodles, if that makes any sense.
Yep.
Like so, it's I love it. I don't I've given it to people and they said it was okay. They're like I like it. They're still looking for a regular lasagna though.
Right. Oh, I love that. Thank you.
I'll send you that. I can send you that recipe.
Thank you.
So Heather, are the dishes that you're having challenges with, are those mixed dishes where you have meat or chicken in a stew, or is it more you're serving meat as a single piece?
I'm both. I'm just looking for any ideas. Yeah, just because I'm new and learning. So,
So my best recommendation for stew and mixed type dishes is keep what works, which is the sauce. And all you're doing basically is replacing the protein. So instead of making, say, barbecue chicken, I'm sorry. Well, actually, well, let me choose another one. Let's say instead of making a Cuban black bean, a Cuban stew with chicken and vegetables, make it
hmm
Cuban with black beans.
hmm
Same spices, same marinade, same ingredients. The only thing
hmm
you switched out was the protein. So that way you're minimizing the degree of change
hmm
for a skeptical family.
Yeah.
So you're not reinventing the wheel and asking them to try tofu quiche. It's
Right.
probably not going to go over well. Um,
You can always try the tofu scrambles. People do like that, supposedly.
right.
Uh-huh.
I don't, I eat eggs and I really love eggs. But I do find that to be uh usually when people that aren't familiar with them try it, I've gotten good feedback on tofu scrambles from people.
But you can also use the same sauce in a barbecue type recipe. So I took my mother's barbecue beef recipe and used tofu. Of course, I'm gonna add another protein choice. I want to write it in the chat box, which is seitan, which is made out of
Oh.
wheat protein,
Oh,
and
nice.
there's no
Never heard
soy,
of it.
there's no soy in it.
Okay, thank you.
Also, you
Um,
can make tofu out of any type of bean. It just you just sort of have to make it yourself. The one that you're finding in stores is always gonna be soy. But if
and
you take the time and like you can make tofu out of any bean you like.
Okay.
Yeah.
if you have a good natural food store,
Maybe.
they might sell a pumpkin tofu,
Oh,
pumpkin
okay. I've never
pumpkin
seen that,
seeds.
but yes.
Ah.
I'll write the name brand of that in the chat box. It's called Pumfu.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, I've never
Um, I think I've
heard.
also seen a tofu made out of, I think it was chickpeas. I think. Uh,
Ah.
What
Admittedly, I have not tried these.
what store was it at? Like, was it like a fill
Um,
right or a?
this is in a regional chain, basically that runs more closer to the coast than it does Buffalo.
Oh, okay.
But if
But it might be in a health food store around here as well.
yeah,
Like, you probably have to just go to one of those type of stores.
if you have a Wegmans,
Oh, we have Wegmans. Yeah.
they ought to carry it. And it would be more or less on the same shelf with tofu.
I, I go
Uh,
Wegmans.
Nice.
Well, I'll go have to go
state-
look because I mean I don't look for I haven't like, looked real hard, but as I've seen all the tofu, because I go weekly to for my cooking class just about. But I'll go. Yeah, I'll have to go check that out.
And seitan should also be on the same shelf as tofu.
Seitan's definitely
You
good.
can buy it already marinated and sauced. You can buy it more plain.
You can also make
Um,
it.
And the textures,
It seems
I
like it's a
think the
lot of work.
texture
It's
is
about a
closer
2 day
than.
process. I don't know if you want to make it. It takes quite a while, but you can make it.
yeah, you can make seitan, but
Hmm.
it's obviously far easier to buy it.
Yeah,
Um,
significantly.
and it's very protein dense, and
Okay.
it will supply the also the texture qualities
Hmm.
um,
Okay.
that meat is
It,
often associated with.
the only
Thank you.
issue with that is the only issue with seitan is often it has gluten because it's basically is wheat gluten. So
Mhm.
if you have gluten sensitivity, you may not want to do that one.
Right.
Other than that, it's good. I personally don't like tempeh, but that's also a thing.
And also soy.
Yeah, and also soy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, well, this is great. I'm glad to see such recipe exchange happening
Yeah.
as part of these sessions, and that's something I kind of hoped for or maybe imagined.
Yeah.
We are coming right up on the hour, so unless there's really other pressing questions, just one other quick thought I had, Rachel, is your points about access. I think are really
Mm.
critical. Making sure that people have access to these foods, and something that occurred to me when you were talking is that having corner stores that offer better foods actually reduces this need to drive.
Yes.
I know I don't have a market near me that I can get to without driving. And
No,
so
I
it,
don't either.
and so it's really occurred to me that if we focused on having more options, more stores,
Mhm.
and we're less reliant on driving, that it's in itself
Mhm.
lowers, our carbon output in a way that we don't usually think about. The carbon footprint of our food is ourselves driving to go get it.
Yeah.
That's true.
And
We
so
don't.
I thought that was really interesting.
And
And so Rachel, thank you again for such a great talk. I'm excited to hear more, and I'm excited
Yeah.
for our next edition
yes, me
next week.
too. I'm definitely interested because, and to your point, yes. Um, and I didn't even address this at all during but you also have to, there is, I, I guess, a barrier in terms of getting people to eat more of the fruits and vegetables through these other means. Like, so we talk about farmers markets and like we increase those or community gardens. People still have in mind, I'm going to go to the store and buy my food. I'm going to go to the store and buy food. I'm going to go to the store to buy food. They're not going to, you sort of have to get people to want to go to the farmers market. You have to people to want to go to this community garden and, pick their own fruit.
To grow it
Like,
themselves.
yeah, like grow it themselves. Like, so that is also a thing that is a
Yeah.
little bit of a barrier. But to that point, Liz, thank you so much for having me speak today. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
your
Share
time.
the video. I'll get it out to all of our folks in the school of health professions.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time and energy.
Well, thank you guys
Excellent.
for inviting me to do this. It was a great opportunity. It helped me actually go learn more about this programming because I didn't know as much as I do not know. And I'm really looking forward to the other sessions because I'm always
I am
interested in
too.
learning about everything, especially things around nutrition. But
Yeah.
just like I don't know much about exactly the whole environmental impact. I know it's a thing, but I'm really like interested in learning more about that and also like local farming efforts and everything. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yes. Thank you. I'm looking forward to them as well. So next week is the roots of sustainability. Oh, yeah. Who's presenting next week?
Whitney?
Whitney? Whitney?
Yep. Yep. Whitney's
Okay.
presenting next week. So it's going to
Excellent.
be a great talk, and considerations of, indigenous food.
Yeah.
So should
Excellent.
be excellent. Hope to see you then.
Yeah.
Okay.
See you then. Bye,
All
everybody.
right.
Thank
All
Bye,
right.
you.
Have a
everyone.
good day.